Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. I'm your host, Matt Tardio. Today's episode is being sponsored by Upwork. Today, we've got, well, quite a bit that we need to be going over. First, we got to go over James Comey and his indictment. We also have now 911 dispatch audio recording, or I guess we can't even say 911 dispatch audio recording that confirms that Charlie Kirk didn't get an autopsy. You're going to hear that here in just a little bit. I can't believe that I'm actually saying that, and those words are coming out of my mouth. No autopsy, it seems, was done on Charlie Kirk. That's right. I'm stating that out loud. The ICE shooter, they went over, raided his apartment as well, ended up coming up with some more information. And then, of course, January 6th. It seems like all of these dang conspiracy things that are like coming around are actually coming full circle. And they don't really appear to be conspiracies. And here in an hour, all right, in 1 hour from now, I'm actually going to be going on Mario Nawfal's channel over on X, along with Alex Jones and some other experts. And we're going to be discussing the Charlie Kirk shooting. So I'm going to take off here just a little bit early to make sure that I can show up and get my audio checks there done as well. Plus, I'm going to probably do an outfit change because, I can't be doing this. Yeah. So we're going to be going over all that. But long story short, it's a lot of stuff, right? That is a lot of things I have going on this morning. So bear with me as I continue to try to update you guys on everything that's going on. But, when you are that busy, it is important to outsource a lot of your information and a lot of the different things that you do. And eventually, when you're running your own company, at some point, you need to outsource it. I mean, let's just be honest. There's only so much time that you have in a day, and time is money. And eventually, you have to start balancing those things out. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is right where Upwork comes in handy. They have over 2 decades of experience with a simple and ambitious goal. It's to pioneer a better way of working. Posting a job on Upwork is easy. It's got zero cost to join, and you can register, browse freelancer profiles, and get help drafting a job post or even booking a consultation. From there, you connect with freelancers that get you. You can easily hire them and take your business to the next level. Upwork makes the entire process easier, simpler, and more affordable with industry low fees. Post a job today and hire tomorrow with Upwork. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork.com to post your job for free and connect with top talent ready to help your business grow. That's UPWORK.com. Upwork.com. Pretty easy, ladies and gentlemen. Get on over there. Bo Williams, appreciate you coming in and gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Fox McLeod says, make sure you take your daily dose of bone broth. Yeah, that and methylene blue, right? Those are the big things. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. I know you guys want to hear it. Here is the audio recording, the dispatch recording of Charlie, of the dispatcher speaking with law enforcement officers. An autopsy was not done. The doctor at the hospital signed the death certificate.
So I did do the request. They emailed me back. He did not go in for an autopsy. The death certificate was signed by the doctor at the hospital.
Oh, okay. Can you just do a field clip documenting that?
I'm sorry, 10-9?
Can you just add us up to the case documenting that there was no autopsy?
And 287, I'll be clear to the hospital.
I need an officer at Timpanogos Hospital to come stage in the emergency room bay.
Jesse just told me that he just got on the phone and Charlie's wife is coming to signature and they're bringing a car over here for a right now.
Charlie's wife is coming to land at signature, you said?
Sir, and Jesse's going to go to Duncan right now and pick up a car for her.
Okay, I'm a little confused because that's what Corey just said. They said they're landing at Duncan, so I don't know where they're landing, but we will just kind of play it by ear, I guess, best that we can.
Yeah, I mean, do you guys need to hear that again? Part of me feels like you might need to hear that again, and I'll be doing that. Somebody's asking, where's the X space? I'm going to go ahead and pin that right up to the top of your screen right now so that you guys can see that. It's up at the top of the chat. You guys can go over there here in an hour. That's when I got updated. It was 10 a.m. Central Time for when we're going to be doing that. So I'll see you guys over there at 10 a.m. if you guys want to join me for that panel that's there. But yeah, let's hear it. This definitely sounds like it is. Yeah, unbelievable. I know. Unbelievable. Absolutely nuts. Unbelievable. I personally can't believe it myself that it was done. Who is this communication? Don't typically talk about the stuff on the radio. I agree with you. It's not typically done over the radio. What this sounds like is potentially, I know when I was in law enforcement, we ended up having an alternate channel, all right, that we would go and we do other things on, basically like an admin channel. And this kind of sounds like admin channel communication, right? So pushing to a separate channel. So it's not the main dispatch channel, but an admin channel. Let's go ahead and listen to that again.
So I did do the request. They emailed me back. He did not go in for an autopsy. The death certificate was signed by the doctor at the hospital.
Oh, okay. Can you just do a field clip documenting that?
I'm sorry, 10-9?
Can you just add us up to the case documenting that there was no autopsy?
In 287, I'll be clear to the hospital.
I need an officer at Timpanogos Hospital to come stage.
So what you just heard within that audio recording, it sounds like, is a supervisor telling that particular officer. Yeah, that was over the radio. Correct, Mary. So that sounds like you heard a supervisor telling the officer that there was no autopsy done and telling him to make sure that it does in fact get done. Kind of disturbing to me, to be perfectly honest, that was actually done in that manner. It seems as if now that I'm reporting on this, my entire computer system has froze. So if you guys can still see me and hear me, that's great. But everything just froze up on me on my end. Hopefully it comes back for you guys. Blows my freaking mind that this is happening right now. Obviously a recorded channel. Yeah, that's exactly what it is, a recorded channel. There we go. Now we're back in business. What they mean by supplement or filling out a sup is a supplemental report. So that officer that was speaking on the radio, was tasked with doing, looking into that, right? Because now it's a murder investigation or a homicide investigation. And so when they told him to fill out a sup, that means you are going to document that you spoke with these people and that no autopsy was done because the doctor ended up signing the death certificate. Now that is a lot of problems because generally speaking with the autopsy, his wife said no. Let's double check that again. I don't know if I heard that portion of that.
Going for an autopsy. The death certificate was signed by the doctor at the hospital.
Oh, okay. Can you just do a field clip documenting that?
I'm sorry, 10-9?
Can you just add us up to the case documenting that there was no autopsy?
In 287, I'll be clear to the hospital.
I need an officer at Timpanogos Hospital to come stage in the emergency room bay.
Jesse just told me that he just got off the phone and Charlie's wife is coming to Signature and they're bringing a car over here for a right now.
Charlie's wife is coming to land at Signature, you said?
Sir, and Jesse's going to go to Duncan right now and pick up a car for her.
Okay, I'm a little confused because that's what Corey just said. They said they're landing at Duncan, so I don't know where they're landing, but we will just kind of play it by ear, I guess, best that we can.
Yeah, so no. What this audio recording states is that no autopsy was done and that the police were told to fill out a supplemental report. So the officer that got the information, right? This is like an admin channel. This is not their main dispatch channel, right? This is an admin channel, it sounds like. And that the officer that was told to go figure that out because you've got to document the death. And so they have the death certificate that was signed by the doctor and that no autopsy was done and that Charlie's wife was actually flying into the hospital. Now, Charlie was moved out of there within 24 hours. So it is possible that an autopsy could have been done during that time. But the big thing that we end up losing during the autopsy is things like tracing the track of the bullet, weighing of it, the documentation. Generally speaking, photographs get taken of the outside of the body before the clothes are removed. They do a toxicology report. They have a Y incision over the chest. They remove all of the organs. They weigh the organs. They pull the blood. They do all of those things. And then they document what happened. Is it tampering? No, not necessarily. What it is it's horrible, horrible work. It's horrible that wasn't actually complete, that they didn't do an autopsy on the body because the doctor signed the death certificate. That means the doctor that was the one describing, the injury to his neck is essentially our witness. That we don't, like, if this is true, that we don't really have any of the forensics, thank you, that go along with the body. That means, I mean, my mind is blown at this point that wasn't done, that wasn't completed. He didn't get shot in the chest. That's correct. And right now I'm hearing two conflicting reports about what's going on. I'm hearing that one, the bullet was lodged underneath the skin in his neck And then I'm hearing, 2, that that the bullet had gone into his neck, bounced off his spine, and got down and lodged somewhere inside of his heart. Great. But if there was an autopsy, we would have definitive results. All the forensics are going to be missing. Yeah, you nailed it. You know, there was a conversation that I was having with Nate from Valhalla, because I called him and told him I was doing this panel yesterday, and told him I was going to be going over and against some of the things, because I don't think he's wrong for questioning everything that's happening. I think a lot of people have a lot of questions for a lot of right reasons. But I called him yesterday when we were talking about this, and he had mentioned something that I found to be very interesting, and something that I have also heard myself, that kind of explains. And there's people saying that's not a 30-06. Well, it could be a 30-06 round, right? The charging document that we went over yesterday, the probable cause affidavit, lays out very, very clear all of the different things that this man has done, right? That the individual that they had arrested, what he had done, and how he had done it. And it's pretty clear when you read over the probable cause affidavit that this individual highly, highly, highly likely fired the shot that killed Charlie Kirk. And so the question then just becomes, you know, what happened? How is it that this bullet did not completely and totally blast through his neck? Because I agree with everybody else on this matter that round should have blown completely and totally through his neck. If it was fired from the front from 160 yards away, it should have blasted completely through his neck. Shouldn't have stopped. No way, shape, or form. Now, the interesting thing about all of the eyewitness statements that end up coming out of there, they are stating that it didn't sound like a complete gunshot. Some people were saying that it sounded suppressed. Some people were saying it sounded like a smaller caliber round. You know, when we talk through this entire thing, you sit there and you go, okay, well, it could be X, it could be Y, it could be Z, it could be all of these other things, but a 30-06, absolutely not. I'd present to you a completely different side of the story, where it could very well be a 30-06 that ended up shooting him, and it's a very, very simple concept. We just came out of COVID a couple of years ago, and throughout COVID, there was a huge ammunition crisis. During that ammunition crisis, a lot of ammo factories ended up opening up and just blasting out tons of crap ammo. I know myself, I had received like a full lot of freaking ammo that was either short on powder, had zero powder at all. It was just garbage. And so the only way I actually see in this being correct, yeah, Lando says partial dud. That's the only way I see this actually being possible, is that the actual round that man fired was either A, so old because it was his grandfather's rifle that got handed down to him by his dad. But I doubt it was an old round, because inside of his house where he was living with his transgender boyfriend, or his lover, or however you want to state it, inside that house, there was actually a target that he'd been doing target practice on. And so if he was shooting old ammo, I think he would have figured it out. Generally speaking, all those things end up aging exactly the same. So I don't think it was that. What he could have had was some bad lots from COVID produced ammo, and that could have caused almost a low order, shot being fired to where like a partial dud, as somebody had said, only some of the powder went off. That creates a smaller gunshot signature that you can actually audibly hear, and it would account for the drop in the projectile going down and into his neck if he was in fact aiming at his head from that distance. And that would also account for a lower velocity. That would mean that it would be lodged inside of his neck, but it's still a lot you would have to believe actually happened. But is it possible? The answer is yes. Colby McCurdy said, this is effed up equivalent to the loss of JFK's brain. This is so infuriating. Right, dude, I'm with you. Jude Say says, the wife definitely doesn't want a public autopsy. The cause of death. It's really ugly. There will be pictures all over the internet. I wouldn't want my wife's pictures all over the internet either. Yeah. Bronx guy gun coming in with 99, just gifting it on out. And I did turn off the, turned off the monetization for this episode for you guys this morning. And yeah, if it was a soft tip round, that would also further get into it. But it certainly seems by listening to this audio that no autopsy was done. And so that is going to create a absolute crap storm in the media.
So I did do the request. They emailed me back. He did not go in for an autopsy. The death certificate was signed by the doctor at the hospital.
Oh, okay. Can you just do a field clip documenting that?
I'm sorry, 10-9?
Can you just add us up to the case documenting that there was no autopsy? In 287, I'll declare the hospital.
I need an officer at Timpanogos Hospital to come stage in the emergency room bay.
Jesse, just pull me.
You know, I saw somebody bring up that the mic exploded. That was a silly little theory that ended up coming out yesterday about the mic exploding. If I was able to find it, I might be able to go over to like YouTube and grab one of these videos real quick for you. But actually what ends up happening when that projectile is flying through the air, so no, it wasn't the mic exploding, just FYI. I had brought this pen down and I had showed you guys this yesterday. This is actually a 22 caliber pen gun. And I've shot it numerous times. And just the kick from this little 22, it definitely hurts the back of your hand when you end up firing this. It doesn't have like significant kick, but if your arm and hand and everything wasn't behind it, this pen would go flying just from a 22. And the actual barrel on this thing is about yay big. You guys are looking at it kind of like where it kind of comes into play. All right, the barrel on this sucker isn't that big at all. It's just super tiny. So there's no way. I think I'd have to be able to pull up. There you go. You guys be able to see it. That barrel is super tiny on that sucker. I mean, the shell goes in right in the back, and that's the barrel on it. It's not very big. And so when you guys are talking about like, you know, his mic exploding, I want you to understand that whole shirt would have gone in a different direction, and that you would have seen a hole blow in his shirt if there was something like that. You'd have seen gunpowder stains. You'd have seen all that stuff on there if it was a bullet that ended up coming off. Not to mention it was on this side of his collar, and the hole opened up on this side of his neck. So that's a problem within itself. But what you're actually witnessing, let's say this is the projectile flying through the air. What actually ends up happening is you have air displaced going on all around that projectile as it's flying through the air. And that air displacement is being pushed out on all sides of this sucker. And so as that projectile flies and it comes into a target, it's still displacing air as it impacts that target. That air displacement then continues to flow into that target. And so that target being his neck, all right, as it goes in, and that target displacement being his neck, what you're going to actually get is that air displacing and pushing around his body, thus lifting up the shirt and everything else. I know that sounds crazy for some of you guys that might not have dealt with it or seen some of these things before, but that's quite literally how fast some of these projectiles fly. And that's all going to depend on the size of the projectile itself, the ballistic coefficient of the projectile, which means its ability to overcome air resistance, okay, i.e. how much drag is it creating as it's flying through the air. So how much velocity it can retain over time as it's flying, time and space as it's flying. But that's what you're actually seeing with that one. So that's that whole shirt lifting up type deal. That's the air that's being carried by the projectile that goes up over and around his body. So that's not an explosion taking place on the mic. That's none of that stuff. The doctor did state that he did pull the projectile out of his neck. So we can assume that doctor's not lying. Yeah, his shirt did lift up from the back, correct? Because again, people, you guys need to picture this. If he was wearing a loose shirt, so there's holes in his shirt. So when that projectile comes and that air goes in, that air is going to go underneath the shirt. Okay, both the front and the back. That air is going to go underneath the shirt and cause it to lift up. So that's a lot different. Not seeing a 50 with no air. Listen, you guys are talking about different projectiles. You're talking about different freaking things. Trust me on this, for the love of God, please. I can go pull up trace videos from YouTube if you want on spotting trace, but the reason you're spotting trace as a sniper or as a long-range shooter, what you're actually looking at is the air displacement, and it literally looks like a boat cutting through water. All right, so air compresses. I don't know how else to talk to you guys about this, but like air compresses. When that happens, it ends up producing like heat and several other things. All right, when explosions go off and you see the shockwave and all of that crap, what you're seeing is air compressing and being pushed outward. The same thing happens on a bullet as it's flying through the air. It's literally going so fast and slicing through the air, it's compressing and pushing that stuff out as it's going through the air. So that's what's happening. Tardio, sounds like you might have reloaded a few rounds in your day to understand ballistics so well. I mean, one part of it was being a sniper inside of the military. Two, it also came from teaching long-range shooting for so long and spotting so much of it. Somebody says vapor trail, right? But what I'm telling you guys is that it literally displaces air, and that bullet does carry that weight. Okay, I mean that displaces the air as it goes. Velocity in feet per second, force on impact in joules. Correct. Mass times velocity squared equals the kinetic energy that ends up going into the target. So that is the overall thing. And there's a lot of people that are coming out with different conspiracies on it, but I hate to tell you guys, the most simple answer, the most simple explanation is that it was a light load, or the entire cartridge did not burn as intended. So everybody needs to chill out in the chat. All right. I played the audio recording for you. I'm not hiding anything from you. They did not. All right. They did not conduct an autopsy according to that audio recording. All right. And that is official dispatch recording. It didn't happen. Doing my best to explain that to you guys. I love you to death. And it's just one of those things that it sucks, to be able to report and to be able to come over here and tell you guys. And I'm not subscribing that it is in fact one of those things, but we're going to move on from Charlie Kirk. I got to go over this ad nauseum here in about 20 minutes. So I want to make sure that I start covering some of this other stuff that we have to talk about as well. I'll give you guys an in-depth report on that. Don't you worry about it. I'm not hiding anything from anybody. I'm doing my best to explain everything to you guys to the best of my ability. It was discovered. We're going to move on from that now. And unfortunately, we have to go talk about January 6th. It was discovered that over 300 federal agents were actually in plain clothes on January 6th. This video that I have up here on the screen allegedly is assuming that this guy is one of the plainclothes agents. If you'll notice, he does have a radio on his chest right here, and he is seen removing glass, all right, from this window. You can see him pulling the glass down. When he realizes he's getting filmed, it seems like he decides to turn away and do something else.
Do not go in there.
A radio journalist from Michigan was shooting video that day at the Capitol. What he captured were two, most charitably called, suspicious actors, but they are dressed in such a way that led him to believe that they were government agents. And one of them, after the windows had been broken by a protester, it was encouraging people to pull the rest of the glass out and go inside. Bobby Powell, who was the journalist that had shot it, and he has his camera rolling, he told him that would be illegal. And that wouldn't be a good idea. He warned people off not to go into that window. And then he turned his camera around and he caught this agent or suspicious actor pulling a large pane of glass out, this tempered glass. It kind of folds into itself, crunch onto the ground. When he realized he was being filmed, he quickly dropped it. It seems apparent on the video that he did not want to be seen doing what he just did. So he pulled in a protester and started blaming him. He said, "What are you doing breaking that window?" The poor fellow that was being accused didn't know what was going on. And then he gave him a couple of really good shoves and cocked his arm like he was going to punch him. We don't know. His facial image is not on any of the Sedition Hunters sites or the FBI's most wanted site, but
That's kind of a problem when we start talking about the amount of agents that were there, that were on the ground, them being plainclothes, and that's just the beginning of this entire ordeal. This is just the beginning of this entire ordeal, and this is obviously going to walk us into James Comey and how he ended up getting indicted. This is Representative Thomas Massey talking about the 275 plainclothes agents that were in the crowds on January 6th.
It's our constitutional duty to do oversight. Now, in that video, that was your answer to a question to me 2 years ago. When I said how many agents or assets of the government were present on January 5th and January 6th and agitating in the crowd to go into the Capitol and how many went into the Capitol. Can you answer that now?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Oh, last time, you don't know how many there were or there were none?
I don't know the answer to either of those questions. If there were any, I don't know how many. I don't know whether there are any.
I think you may have just perjured yourself that you don't know that there were any. You want to say that again, that you don't know that there were any?
I have no personal knowledge of this matter. I think what I said the last time...
You've had 2 years to find out, and the day... By the way, that was in reference to Ray Epps, and yesterday you indicted him.
What they are saying is that basically the line of questioning was asking whether or not there was undercover officers versus plainclothes officers. So undercover officers versus plainclothes officers. And now it seems that the plainclothes officers is the words that they're trying to sit on. And yeah, people are now screaming, arrest Garland. This gentleman that I'm about to play for you, and the statement that's going to come out of it is Mike Shirky. All right. He is, what I want to say, state senator, I believe, if I remember correct. And he's actually talking about this day in particular on hidden camera.
Why wasn't there more security in there?
Yeah, there was 30 guards out back there.
It was ridiculous. It was all staged.
You think it was D.C., the mayor influenced?
I think she was just a puppet.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of high.
How does that?
Hell, Mitch McConnell was part of it.
I was going to say.
He was the one that was part of the decision making how much security to have on stand. I think they wanted to have a mess.
I know they wanted to. There's no other explanation.
The moment, like.
But they wouldn't have had a mess with you guys. They had to have also recruited this other group of people. And then I do believe, because I don't know if you guys have been caught up in her mob. When you're in mobs, you can get caught up in emotion.
Oh yeah, I was ready to go.
You can get caught up in emotion.
Especially when you're getting tear gas and
so
flashlights.
some of those Trump folks probably just got caught up in the emotion of it.
Well, they had a guy with a loudspeaker up on that tower. There was a tower in the middle of everything in the back. And there was a dude on a loudspeaker hanging everybody on, telling everybody what to do. Like, reinforce this side, reinforce that side. Like, they're going through over here. Like, it was definitely something to behold.
I'm sure it was fantastic to watch. Not good fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, unbelievable.
Real interesting, yeah.
It was,
I'm glad I was there.
It was a surreal moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I said on my couch, tears came down my eyes, I couldn't believe what happened.
Because I didn't see someone get arrested. I didn't see anybody punch a cop. I didn't see a cop punch a person.
I want somebody to tell me why that guy shot that woman.
Exactly.
I want an answer.
What did she do to get shot?
She was breaking through a window, but
in every other barrier, when people started to break through the barrier, they just got out of the way and let them go.
Yep.
Why in that one case with that one person who never showed his face, or they never showed it on camera?
Also, there was a lot of people behind her. How reckless is it to shoot?
Yeah, and I would hope
it was
she was hot.
What this gentleman is stating, for those of you, I have a feeling that the audio sucks and it might be losing you. What this gentleman is trying to state is that this whole thing was set up essentially by Nancy Pelosi because they wanted to have an indictment against Donald Trump. And so they were directing federal agents basically to allow a lot of this crap to happen. Now, it is not absurd to me that the Bureau would have plainclothes officers on the street walking through there, seeing what was going on, being able to report things, etc. What is absurd to me is the number of them that were on the street that day for January 6th, in addition to Comey essentially lying about a lot of this crap when it goes down to leaking information in the media. We're going to talk about that in a second, number one. And number two, members of our government who were saying that none of that is true, that we did not have plainclothes officers out there. Here's Comey's indictment. I'm going to read it for you guys. On or about September 30th, 2020, in the Eastern District of Virginia, the defendant James Comey Jr. did willfully and knowingly make a material, false, fictitious, and fraudulent statement in a matter within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch of the government of the United States by falsely stating to a U.S. senator during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing that he, James Comey Jr., had not authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports regarding an FBI investigation concerning person one. That statement was false because Mr. Comey then and there knew he in fact had authorized person three to serve as an anonymous source in news reports regarding an FBI investigation concerning person one. Person one being Donald Trump. Person three, well, that is the question now, isn't it? On or about September 30th, 2020, in the Eastern District of Virginia, the defendant James Comey Jr. did corruptly endeavor to influence, obstruct, and impede the due and proper exercise of the power of inquiry under which an investigation was being had before the Senate Judiciary Committee by making false, misleading statements before the committee, all in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1505. Signed, Lindsay Halligan, United States Attorney. So he has, in fact, been indicted. I looked at the number of cases that are brought forward for indictment and the actual percentage of which people end up getting convicted, and they have a very high conviction rate. Comey actually came out last night and has an answer to all of this, and it's, I don't even know how to say this, it's he wants to take it to trial. Here is his questioning by Ted Cruz in the Senate hearing.
To another topic. On May 3rd, 2017, in this committee, Chairman Grassley asked you point blank, quote, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation? You responded under oath, quote, never. He then asked you, quote, have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton administration? You responded again under oath, no. Now, as you know, Mr. McCabe, who works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal and that you were directly aware of it and that you directly authorized it. Now, what Mr. McCabe is saying and what you testified to this committee cannot both be true. One or the other is false. Who's telling the truth?
I can only speak to my testimony. I stand by what the testimony you summarized that I gave in May of 2017.
So your testimony is you've never authorized anyone to leak. And Mr. McCabe, if he says contrary, is not telling the truth. Is that correct?
Again, I'm not going to characterize Andy's testimony, but mine is the same today.
All right, I'm going to make a final point because my time has expired. This investigation of the president was corrupt. The FBI and the Department of Justice were politicized and weaponized. And in my opinion, there are only two possibilities: that you were deliberately corrupt or woefully incompetent. And I don't believe you were incompetent. This has done severe damage to the professionals and the honorable men and women at the FBI, because law enforcement should not be used as a political weapon. And that is another.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel bad for that lady after reading over the comment section as I was doing that. She should have definitely, I want to say, chose better dress, but in fact, she did not. There is several other things I could be going over on this. Let's just go ahead and bring up this little short clip right here about the gentleman that Ted Cruz was just referencing that came out, who had stated that he, in fact, was given permission from Comey in order to leak information to the press.
Is this the smoking gun?
Well, it is. It's something pretty hot, I'll say that. Listen, you have now the former general counsel, the former chief lawyer to James Comey saying, I leaked classified information, he tells federal agents and prosecutors, and I did so at the instruction of James Comey's chief of staff, who told me James Comey authorized me to go do this. We now have a really significant evidence trail that James Comey may have had national security information leaked to the American public just before the election, putting his finger potentially on the scale of the election. And what's important about this is that knowing and willful leaks like this, if they have a negative effect on the national interest, the security of the country, they can be prosecuted up to 10 years, which makes this October 2016 leak that the FBI was able to, that the investigators and prosecutors able to confirm, still prosecutable until next October of 2026. Pam Bondi said, I just heard what she said in the show today, no one should be allowed to jeopardize national security. There will be accountability. Kash Patel saying that this was a stain on the FBI and one that now has to be fully transposed. When you look at the investigation, Sean, which, by the way, occurred, a lot of it occurred during Trump's first term in office, really weak work by prosecutors and people working on this. They had a chance to go get emails that would show what Comey and his people were talking about. They didn't go secure them. They didn't bring a lot of people before the grand jury. There is room for Pam Bondi and Kash Patel right now to open a criminal investigation, get new evidence, and help the American people see just how bad this might have been.
Is this part two? Because there was the issue of the Columbia professor. Was that classified material as well?
Sure. Yeah, listen, I want to credit Attorney General Bondi and Director Kash Patel, because I made a request to have this information unredacted. It was redacted in the first production. We saw the stuff about Mr. Richmond. We saw the stuff about Adam Schiff. Right? We know that's the other person who was identified as likely authorizing illegal national security leaks. But this was originally redacted, and the Attorney General went to the mat for us to go get this information so we can see it. And when you see it now, you see its significance. Remember, James Comey was questioned astutely by Senator Chuck Grassley in the Judiciary Committee, May 3rd, 2017. Were you ever an anonymous source? No. Did you ever ask someone to be an anonymous source? No. Did you ever authorize the leak of classified information or declassify something so it could go to a reporter? Never. No. Those words are now going to potentially be looked at as a potential obstruction of Congress. If this statute of limitations and the possibility of a conspiracy case, James Comey faces a potentially very serious matter right now.
It's
yeah, and as we know, that now turns out to be true. That recording, that video was taken last month. This is Comey's response to his indictment.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant, and she's right. But I'm not afraid, and I hope you're not either. I hope instead you are engaged, you are paying attention, and you will vote like your beloved country depends upon it, which it does. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
He says, let's have a trial. That's what he says. Let's have a trial. Even though there's people that are stating exactly the opposite, that he in fact did do it. And I saw somebody that, put the comment down there. Does he know that the federal conviction rate is sitting right around 98% following indictments? That is true. And the vast majority of those convictions end up coming from plea deals that end up taking place afterwards. So it is possible that when he gets given through discovery for this case, when his attorneys end up getting the information of what he got, of the evidence that's stacked against him, that his attorney, looks at this and says, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and take a plea deal for this. And he takes a lesser charge in order to plea it. But there is also the possibility that because this is such a public case, that this wholeheartedly does go to trial. I pray that this does go to trial, because I want to see every shred of evidence against this man, but more so against our federal government, because it's going to end up opening up 10 times more questions on why this went down the way it went down. Jude Chase says he was laughing at the general he trapped. Yeah. And a lot of the people that ended up going to jail afterwards, you got to understand, too, after January 6th, we ended up having people that were held without trial or bail for years. I mean, this is a serious issue. I've talked to people, you guys don't know this, but I have actually spoken to some of the people that were arrested from January 6th and some of the things that they were subjected to and what actually happened afterwards. We've gone over January 6th on this channel. There absolutely was violent events that occurred on January 6th. We've talked about this. Calling it an insurrection, I think, is a stretch, a very big stretch. Saying it was violent, however, is accurate. There was law enforcement officers that were injured. There was different things that were thrown. There was explosive devices that were found near the premise. All of this stuff is true at the same time. All right. But whether or not federal officers had actually incited this violence is going to be the question, versus why. Let's put it this way. Asking common sense questions, I think, really kind of opens up the broad spectrum. And so if I ask, if the federal agents were on the ground simply doing their jobs, looking for federal crimes in order to protect the Capitol building, well, why would you have to lie about that? The answer is you wouldn't. Yes, we had federal agents that were on the ground that day in plain clothes. Then the question becomes, did you leak information to the press? Comey's response, no. But for some reason, we have federal agents that are saying it came directly from his chief of staff saying that Comey had authorized him to speak to the press. So that's also a lie. So the question is, why is our government lying so much if this ends up being true? If he ends up getting found in court, why would our government be lying? And then the only other answer to possibly go in there is that we had federal agents that were spying and attempting to take down a president of the United States of America. Basically, we weaponize our freaking system. This to me is bigger than World War III. This to me is bigger than what's taking place over inside Israel, the Middle East, between Ukraine and Russia. This is a big deal because what this is this is a systematic dismantling of the moral fibers of our country. All of the checks and balances that America has in order to keep us safe, in order to keep our government accountable, essentially would be falling apart. All of it. We can't have a country where our federal government is weaponized against its political opponents. And it seems that that's taken place time and time again. Not to mention bringing up Russiagate. Like that's a very real thing, ladies and gentlemen. Like that is a very, very real thing. I want to say it was Alexander Lukashenko. It was either Victor, maybe it was Victor Lukashenko that I had the pleasure of interviewing. Coming out and giving me more information about Russiagate and how that whole thing was actually perpetrated according to him, and how like the Biden administration had essentially like hamstrung the Ukrainian government back in 2014 and 2015, and it produced false information in order to bring down the Trump administration. When I see things like this taking place, that leads more credibility, in my opinion, to people that are coming out and stating no. The Obama-Biden administration back then was setting things in motion in order to keep Trump in check. And then when all of that fails, we end up having things like January 6th take place. It makes you wonder whether or not there was plants in the system in order to make that happen, in order to set that in motion. And that is something that I can't sleep on. And that is something that every single American should be demanding answers on. So yes, 1000%. I sincerely hope that this man's trial gets made public and that we get answers to every single dirty individual in our federal government, that they get held accountable if it ends up being true and they get thrown in flipping jail. It's disgusting to me. I do have to go because I do have that interview I'm going to be doing over on Mario Nawfal's channel. Ladies and gentlemen, his channel is pinned up at the top of the chat. If you want to see that, I'm going to be talking about the Charlie Kirk situation with Alex Jones and several others. If you guys want to see that, I would love for you guys to join me over there. It's kind of sad, in my opinion, that no autopsy was done that day. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, peace, love, happiness, and God bless. I'm out of here.
So I did do the request. They emailed me back. He did not go in for an autopsy. The death certificate was signed by the doctor at the hospital.
Oh, okay. Can you just do a clip documenting that?
I'm sorry, 10-9?
Can you just add us up to the case documenting that there was no autopsy? In 287, I'll be clear to the hospital.
I need an officer at Timpanogos Hospital to come stage in the emergency room bay.
Jesse just told me that he just got off the phone and Charlie's wife is coming to Signature and they're bringing a car over here for her right now.
Charlie's wife is coming to land at Signature, you said?
Sir, and Jesse's going to go to Duncan right now and pick up a car for her.
Okay, I'm a little confused because that's what Corey just said. They said they were landing at Duncan, so I don't know where they're